Malaya of the 1940s was a thriving tin and rubber economy under the British and home to many cultures. Unlike Mahathir, the majority of Malays were mostly farmers living in the countryside. On the 8th of December 1941, the Second World War reached Malaya. Mahathir's school closed. His much-desired education cut short when he was only 16 years old. With the Japanese at their doorstep, Mahathir, like most Malays, counted on the might of the occupying British army.
We still thought that the Japanese would not attack because the British in those days were regarded as almost invincible. But then one day, of course, the Japanese attacked in Kota Baru, and they came in from Songkhla in Thailand down into northern part of Kedah. And then we started hearing the guns. We saw British troops retreating in the rain. Some of them, one or two of them were left behind, who were subsequently billeted to death.
The Japanese occupation proved to be a major turning point for 16-year-old Mahathir. If the Japanese could defeat the British, so could he, as he later wrote in his book. The Japanese occupation had a profound effect on the Malays. Their faith in the invincibility of the British was destroyed. The Malays were forced out of their complacent reliance on others. To survive, the Malays had to struggle for almost the first time. Food was getting harder to find. In order to survive the war, Mahathir had to become a businessman.
My father told me, you better go to the Japanese school. So I went and studied in the Japanese school. But after some time, I thought it is not worthwhile learning Japanese. I still was convinced that they will be defeated and their language would be useless. So I left the school and started a small shop selling rice.
On the 12th of September 1945, the Japanese surrendered. After 3 years and 8 months, at the age of 20, Mahathir's longest school holiday finally ended.
I went to the school. I was very happy. I roamed around the buildings, and that's when I started scribbling my signature all in charcoal all over the building. And when school reopened, of course, they recognized my signature. And Mr. Lim Chan Chai was one of my teachers, scolded me and told me to go and rub it out, Shadi.
Mahathir was no stranger to getting in trouble at school.
I tend to answer back. Teachers don't quite like the way I behave because I give smart answers, so to speak.
Mahathir held 2 important office positions, indications that he'd become more vocal after the war. Mahathir was the chairman of the Literature and Debating Society. He was also editor of the annual school book. John Augustine, Mahathir's classmate from day one, acted as sub-editor. He knew Mahathir would take on a responsibility that was entrusted to him only if he could do justice to it. John also noted that Mahathir's writing came across strongly and clearly. Mahathir found his voice in school, and now he was taking it outside the school walls. He believed the Malays were generally backward, in academics and business. The Malays make up the majority of the people, but share only a small part of the wealth, something Mahathir was keen to change.
The Malays seems to be not participating in the economic life of the country. Of course, I didn't even know about the word economic, but all I knew was that they were not involved in business. Most of them, if they are in the town, they would be government servants, clerks. My brothers were all clerks working in the government service. And that's all. I mean, they By comparison, of course, they were already poorer than the Chinese who traded in rice and sugar and things like that.
Mahathir joined several political parties at this time, including the United Malays National Organization, otherwise known as UMNO. It was also during this time that Mahathir grew closer to his father. In 1946, anti-British sentiments were strong, especially with the British plans for the Malayan Union. The Malays and Mahathir were furious.
It meant that everybody who wants to be a citizen of the Malayan Union can be without any qualification whatsoever. So I thought that this was detrimental to the position of the Malays.
Mahathir's passion for politics was stoked by the unfairness of the Malayan Union. In his book, The Malay Dilemma, Mahathir feared citizenship would make the Malays economically more deprived in their own country. So Mahathir put his words into action.
We gathered a few of my classmates, schoolmates, we talked about this thing, and that was when we decided to put up posters. We had to do this at night because the blackout was still on at that time. And we couldn't go to the printing shop to do this because we feared that we might be discovered. So we bought paper from printing shop. We used potatoes, cut potatoes, and we cut off the figures on the potatoes, and we used a kind of stamp pad using Chinese ink, and we printed it along a line that is put on the paper, and it looks as if it is printed in a printing press.
Mahathir's activism also brought him closer to his father.
Strangely, my father did not oppose it. He knew what we were doing. He sort of encouraged me. And later on, we did discuss politics, which was strange because I never got into such discussions with him before. Apparently, he was also agitated by the proposals to create the Malayan Union. I was still 20 years old, and he was asking me questions, and well, for me it was almost a breakthrough because I've never had any serious discussion with my father before.
The rallies were a success and the British backed down. UMNO leaders were soon heading to London to negotiate for the country's independence. But Mahathir wasn't an UMNO leader. He felt a degree would improve his political standing within the party. His first choice was to travel to England and study law. But he also had a backup plan.
There was this team of people going around interviewing people who wanted to study medicine, and I applied for that also. So they gave me a scholarship, and I couldn't say, well, no, I am not interested in this, I want to study law. In those days, you don't ask questions. What you are given, you take.
So 22-year-old Mahathir travelled south to Singapore to start a new chapter in his life. At King Edward VII Medical College, Mahathir was very disheartened to discover that his admission grades were dismal compared to the non-Malay students. They had 6 A's, he only 3. This made him even more determined to succeed.
Mahathir fared very well in his studies, except, I think, in the finals, he had to repeat one subject. But then most of us had to repeat that one subject, obstetrics and gynecology.
Even while studying, Mahathir always found time for politics, especially the political party UMNO. While he was the president of the Muslim Student Society, he disagreed with UMNO over admitting non-Malays into the party. Mahathir also arranged for a